Howdy, howdy, fellow movie watchers, and welcome back for the final edition of the 2024 series of the Wisco Movie Watchers podcast. As always, we are your hosts, Evan Davies and Dylan Davies. Doesn't mean it's our last episode, it's just our last episode of the year, as we are giving you a review of 2024, which is an interesting place to be in, seeing how half the stuff we watched in 2024 I don't think we liked. So,
Yeah, that's true. Mixed year for sure.
mixed year, certainly. There's a lot of stuff I liked. There might even be a movie. There's a movie that got into my top 100. So, and another one that was in the discussions.
Good.
So it's not all bad. It's just, it's marred by one giant poop stain known of a movie that I think our viewers will know.
Yeah, I will say there's a lot of movies that got into my top 100 that I watched this year and discovered this year, but none of them are from 2024.
Right. Yeah, so we have just a couple categories for you. So we're going to obviously give our best movie and our worst movie of the year. Because of our cult classic series, we are going to name a movie that we think could be a cult classic during that time. I might give a couple shout outs to some actors or actresses as well, or a scene or two. It's far more my speed. And we're also going to give you the best movie we found during 2024. So it's not a 2024 movie, it's just what we found. Because I think being a film fan, the journey is, you can't just be up to date on everything. It's just impossible to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So half the time it's fun just celebrating what you found during the year and being like, oh yeah, I remember that year I watched this, even though that might be 30, 40, 50 years old at the time. So we'll see how this one goes. And we are also going to give you an Oscar prediction as well about in this show. So it's going to be a fun review show for you. Now, you want to start off good or you want to start off bad?
Well, I think we start off bad because I think we agree that on the worst.
Okay.
I mean, at least.
So let me guess. Your worst movie of the year stars Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney.
Obvious.
Yeah, it's obviously the worst movie of 2024 to us is Madam Web. I don't think it's close.
Yeah.
God, that movie was bad. If you want a full review of it, if you're just catching in on us, we have a full watch through of it. And woof.
Yeah, there's certain aspects of it that are really fun and enjoyable, but there's also like a lot of parts that are just a slog to get through.
I
It's
think
like when you said a movie that could be a cult classic, that's the one that I came to mind, but I was like, I don't know if it's like fun enough to become a cult classic.
it's not. It's just not. You are being way too kind to that movie. Because that movie sucks.
Well, I know, but that's usually the movies that become cult classics are like movies that are like super fun and well made. They just didn't get appreciated at the time, or movies that just genuinely suck and are made fun of.
Like Sleepaway Camp.
Yeah, exactly. Like those are the two kind of cult movies that become cult movies. So,
I have a different movie for a
and
cult classic, so.
although I don't know if actually I didn't look this one up. Is Morbius 2024?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Morbius is 22, I want to say.
Okay.
It's just, it's
Oh.
ever in the consciousness of the moviegoer because of how bad it was. I stopped watching that movie 45 minutes in because I was like, I literally cannot do that.
Well, I heard that one. I heard that one was more fun to make fun of. Adam West.
Well, the funny part is that Madam Web, you're right, doesn't have that. Morbius was so popular online to talk about. Sony re-released it
Exactly.
like a month or two after the initial release date because like, no, people want to see this, and it's like, no, they don't.
No, they don't.
They just want to talk shit
Yeah.
about it, man. Good times, good times. I will also include my worst scene of the year in this. It is a tie for me because it's from Madam Web. I don't know if it's Miss Webb goes to the Amazon with her JanSport backpack and her jeans, and just shows up and she's like, I can find anything. Or if it's Pepsi Cola that actually beats the villain. I'm not sure which is worse.
Mine was sorry, I dropped my pen. Mine was the diner scene.
Ooh, yeah, that was bad
Because
too.
that just screamed of
Yeah.
where they just needed to add character moments for the girls, but that it just seemed like completely out of character for all of them,
Yep.
and it makes absolutely no sense.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like the most strange scene in the movie.
Yeah. I all are good contenders. I think
I
the
mean,
diner scene.
it makes sense that the worst scene is at least in the worst movie. That's nice to
Yes.
say.
Yes, I can't remember a scene in a movie that I've watched this year because I went through and I've been boning up. You know, we've been talking about this episode for over 2 months, and all of a sudden I was like, I haven't watched enough 2024 to really give the best
Oh,
opinion
I
I
should
can.
also say that you've watched a lot of 2024 movies. Mine is definitely an incomplete review. I have not seen a lot of them.
Yes, but a lot of the stuff you've watched is stuff other people don't or or haven't even
True.
known to do.
But also, like, a lot of the movies that I tend to enjoy, I just can't watch yet. Because a lot of the movies that I tend to enjoy are the more award contender stuff. And those just don't get released around here
Yeah,
until, like, after the Oscars, really.
indeed,
It's one of
indeed.
the shames of being in a smaller market.
Yeah, I mean, true. Yeah, I was going to the theater at least once a week the last month and a half, just being like, gotta watch movies, gotta watch
Yeah.
movies, which I was happy to do, and it's a good time of the year because now we now are in this. We're now kind of in this place. There's like three movie going seasons. The whole year is worthwhile calendar now. It's not like it used to be back in the day where it used to be just summer, and then it became just summer and a couple weeks before Christmas. Now it's kind of become
Yeah.
now it's become okay, release anything that you want January
Never.
to April and you can release whatever you want. There's still a summer movie season, but it's not as strong as it used to be because some of those things are now getting pulled out, which we will talk about in our 2025 preview, which we are recording right after this. And there's a lot of movies that are getting sucked out of the summer season to be pulled to other seasons. And then you kind of have that Halloween season, really, where from August onward, you keep just getting horror movies and things that people think fit in the vibe. Beetlejuice from this year certainly felt that way, where it's like, oh, that's like a Halloween movie. You're like, when are you releasing it? First week of September. And you're like, okay, sure.
Yeah. It it's just like the bigger studio ones though.
Yeah.
Like the smaller horror movies definitely go like first week of October, last week of September usually.
Yes.
But yeah, like those big studio horror movies definitely first week of September,
Yes.
which is kind of annoying to me, but eh, they'll make their money any way they can.
They're trying to have like a classic long.
Yeah, it works for them.
They're trying to have a
Beetlejuice,
classic
made
long
bank.
theatrical run. Because I mean, admittedly, I don't think haven't I saw Beetlejuice until it was like third or fourth week it was in the theater. Because it was just like time wise,
Okay,
we
yeah.
couldn't figure it out. Anytime we talked about going, it was like, oh well, I have to do this or
How
got to do
how
that.
full was the theater when you guys went?
It still had some numbers to it. It wasn't like full, but
Yeah,
we still, people were still going to the movie. So
yeah, that was affectionate.
yeah, at minimum, it was like its third week, and there were still people really wanting to go see that movie.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, it speaks to the quality of honestly, because it's a good movie. But yeah, and now we kind of get the Christmas season, which is pretty much November onward now. It's not December anymore. It's just like November onward.
Oh, one of the things I really miss is Red Letter Media. I don't know if you watch them on YouTube at all,
A little
but
bit.
they used to have they used to call January "fuck you, it's January" because that's where studios used to just dump all their shit.
Yeah.
Go, "Fuck you, it's January," and then they'd point out all the shit that the studios just dump there because it's just absolute garbage.
Yeah, and now you can't do that anymore. Now real movies get released in
And now
January.
now real movies come out every single month.
Now, granted,
Kind of a shame.
granted, January is still by far the worst month of the year for
Oh,
movies.
100%. Yeah.
But it's not as fuck you as it used to be.
Yeah.
But alas, alas. So yeah, worst movie of the year and the worst scene goes to Madam Web. Sony,
Yeah.
you're on a run.
I know.
And trust me, the
I
only reason
know.
it's not up for discussion is because I haven't seen Craven the Hunter. Because apparently that's also really fucking bad.
Yeah. I know a couple others, but I haven't seen or Craven the Hunter, that new Crow movie, which I also
Yep.
haven't seen. What else was supposed to be really bad? Oh, Trap, the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yep.
Although I heard mixed things about that. Some people really like enjoyed it for what it was. Then other people were like, "Yeah, it's a shitty night movie. Like, what do you expect?" So,
Yeah. Talk about a resurgence that isn't going as well as was a couple years ago.
well, that's a. It's so weird because like, if you know M Night Shyamalan, you can enjoy his movies perfectly well. Like, I enjoy them for what they are, which is just like pure camp now. But I
Sure.
don't know if that's what he intends or not. That's the problem.
Well, it what was it? Was it Glass? What was it? Or Split? It was Split, where all of a sudden everyone's like, "Wait, this guy can still make
But that was
movies."
his big comeback.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah,
then the next couple, you're like, "Oh, these are people are liking these." Okay. And then Old came out and it was kind of like, ugh. And then
yeah.
now Trap apparently it's just worse. But we talk. I'm sorry to keep plugging the 2025 preview. There's a movie that's going to be even more cringe than anything M Night Shyamalan could release. But nonetheless, we'll go forward in our review. What do you think is a movie from this year that could be a cult classic?
Yeah, see, when you asked that, when you sent that in the text, the only one that came to mind was Mad Web. But like I said, I don't know if it's fun enough to become a cult classic.
So I think the way you look at cult classic and I look at cult classic kind of by it's different, and by definition is why sometimes it's hard to classify what is a cult classic
Well,
because
cult classic to me should just be something that didn't do well on initial release
sure,
and then was found appreciation later after release.
yeah, that's
For
the
whatever
best.
reason. It doesn't
That's
have to have a valid reason.
yes,
Just any reason.
and usually you find horror and comedy in that. You don't find a lot of action
Yes.
movies. You don't find a lot of those in the cult classic
Yeah.
realm. Cult classics, the way I usually define it to help people understand it, is what is your old local theater that like almost every town has that has like two theaters and it's still up because no one wants it to go away, but no one like goes and sees movies there anymore. What are the nerds putting in that so people will at least go to the building? You know, our hometown has the Time Cinema. There's two theaters in it, and it was the oldest theater. It was the original theater for the town until we got a multiplex on the other side of town. We never grew up going to the Time Cinema, but the Time Cinema pretty much is run in Oshkosh, Wisconsin by the nerds of House of Heroes, also known as the comic book store in town, where they pretty much just help run it because they have a deal with Marcus Cinema where they won't allow them to play new releases in Time Cinema, which is also bullshit. That's a different story. But like that's like Reanimator is always playing there. Rocky Horror would play there. Like other like those are what we're talking about. To that definition, I have Lisa Frankenstein as my cult classic of 24. It wasn't
Sure.
super well received outside of the super nerd community that really liked it. Apparently, outside of the commenters that attacked you really hard, and then me simply because I know you. Uh, but I think Lisa Frankenstein is super fun, but did not do super well upon release. But it's gonna live. It's gonna be a streaming favorite, I think, for 5, 10 years to come.
Yeah. The other one could be like the Fall Guy, maybe. It didn't do great, but could find appreciation later.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Fall Guy. Trust me, we'll talk about. It. So
Okay. The other one I know that didn't do well, but I really enjoyed was Dev Patel's directorial debut, Monkey Man.
okay.
I really enjoyed that movie. It didn't do well financially or anything, but I think it made its money back, but it wasn't like a hit.
So about Monkey Man, is it like pseudo John Wick vibes?
Pretty much. But
I,
it's like really, really interesting. It's like weird. I don't know if it's Hindu or what's the other what's the other
Buddhist? Is that what you're looking for?
I think it's Hindu. I think it's Hindu. It's like weird Hindu-ish mythology mixed in to it. So
Oh, okay.
it's like really, really strange, but it's like interesting and really well shot, in my opinion. I really enjoyed it, especially as someone who was just doing it for the first time. And
Okay.
like, I thought it was way more ambitious than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, usually there's two ways of directors going. They either are way too cautious or they're
Yeah,
way too ambitious, thinking they can handle something that's just not.
I thought he did a great job, though.
So no, I only asked because so it's essentially John Wick with some Hindi mythology put into place from your
Yeah,
description, which I think is cool. I think that might be part of the reason it didn't do well, unfortunately. But admittedly, the first John Wick movie was very much a sleeper hit, where it came out and the
true.
people that saw it were like, "No, you got to." And it was at the height of Keanu Reeves doesn't make good movies, so
Yeah.
no.
Unfortunately, I don't think Dev Patel has the cachet like Keanu does, so I don't think it will find its appreciation, but I'd love it to because Dev Patel's my boy.
I know you love Dev Patel. I think also, I mean, hopefully for the movie, it does see that success as it continues because the same thing happened with John Wick. For months, people just underground kind of talked about John Wick, and then everybody knew about John Wick somehow. Like it just blew the fuck up. Hopefully, Monkey Man can follow a similar trajectory based on your review for it. So, we'll see how that one goes for it, nonetheless. But let's take it now. I'm going to take this for just a hair of time to. We talked about worst scene. Do you have a best scene? Is there anything that sticks out to you where you're like, yeah, I really liked that in 2024?
I don't have one from a 2024 movie.
Sure. Okay. So my best scene, I split it. Speaking of Fall Guy, the final stunt of the movie for Fall Guy is tremendous. If you do not know, did you watch Fall Guy? Okay, so Fall Guy, it's based off the old television series, and it's a stuntman who's being. The premise of the movie is the stuntman is being framed for a murder committed by someone that he works with, and then he just keeps getting put into all these scenarios that because he's a stuntman he can do, but they're absurd and ridiculous. The final stunt and the final scene of the movie is, or of the film in terms of what they're making at the climax of the movie is tremendous. I also should have said before this movie, or before this episode, spoiler alert, just in case anything pops up about these movies, because these are recent enough that we should probably say spoiler. But there is a car jump, there's a bunch of helicopter action. It's really fun and really cool because it's an extremely self-aware movie. That it knows what it is. It doesn't try to hide what it is, and it's also giving you the wink and the nod of, hey, we all know how ridiculous some of these action scenes of the past are, but we all know we love them anyways. So let's just have fun with it and enjoy it. So that is super fun and enjoyable. Also, this one has been seen throughout memes everywhere this year, so I don't think this is as much of a spoiler. But I have to give one. This is a spoiler right away. It's Deadpool and Wolverine going up against the Deadpool Corps in Deadpool and Wolverine. It's the first time you actually get to see Hugh Jackman put the mask on like Wolverine. So already every nerd is blowing their pants away. I did the same fucking thing in the theater. I just went because finally, after 25 fucking years, we get to see Wolverine look like Wolverine. So that was tremendous. Plus, you're getting all these multiversal Deadpools against Deadpool and Wolverine, and it's just a whole heck of a lot of fun. And it's a perfect example of why that franchise works. Is it's self aware and it understands the problems, especially inherent in going to Marvel. They know what their problems are, and they're like, hey, this multiverse stuff, it's kind of exciting, but it's not all that good. What if we just have a lot of fun with it and get away from it? You're like, okay, I'm cool with that. Sure. And they use it perfectly. So that deserves a shout out, especially when you're just seeing Hugh Jackman's Wolverine just stab the shit out of a bunch of Deadpools that are all fun, obnoxious, but obnoxious. You're like, yes, it's glorious. So good
Oh,
scene.
actually, I won't spoil or talk about it, but I will give a quick shout out to the final set piece in Civil War.
Okay.
That's a good scene. I really enjoyed it. I don't want to say anything about it because it will spoil it.
Okay.
Literally, if I say anything about it, it will spoil it.
Sure.
So I'll just say it was really surreal to watch.
Okay. Interesting. I've yet to see Civil War. It was on the docket, and it was
Really
just one
enjoyed it.
one I did not get to. So unfortunately, that was one I could not. Little blind spot there. Now we're gonna pivot away just for a hair. What was the best movie that you found during 2020?
Okay, this is my list. I got it all. Okay, so this is where so I have like probably about 50 best pictures, but I won't list.
Sure.
This is the year where I just started going down the list and knocking them off.
Yeah.
I think I still have about 100, less than 100 to watch now until I've seen every best picture.
You are a brave man, dude. I would never do.
I do have a worse scene that I really need to talk about.
Okay.
Um, it's not from 2024 though. Um, so the best discovery of the year was a movie from 1988 called The Vanishing. I'm pretty sure when I was looking stuff up about it, I'm pretty sure Stanley Kubrick said it was the scariest movie he had ever seen.
Oh, okay.
And it's not an out and out horror movie. It's just based on the title. You can guess what it's about.
Sure.
But it's just this movie that gives you like have this pit in your stomach the whole time, and you're just waiting for this thing to happen. And then when it does happen, it's just awful. And then
Oh.
the rest of the movie, it's just like so depressing and so melancholy. And then it gives you this twist where you start following the perpetrator for a long chunk of the movie,
Huh.
and it just gives you his everyday life, like for I don't know, probably like 45 minutes. He's just an everyday dude. It's a French, and then there's a twist ending, which is like honestly probably the scariest ending I've ever seen. That will forever will stick with me.
Oh wow.
It
Okay.
is truly awful. It's like an awful ending that is if you watch till the end, you'll be like, it's it's yeah, it's bad. It bad in a good way,
Yes,
I should say.
it makes the movie better, and the movie is very good, but it's bad from a
Yes.
human experience standpoint of what you're
Yes.
saying. Okay, The Vanishing. Interesting. Any prominent stars in that movie? Anything prominent about it? Just
Uh,
or just some random little movie?
no one I recognized. It's from '88 and French, so maybe they were stars in France at the time, but no one I recognized. Yeah, I didn't even look up the director or anything. I just found it because it was mentioned on a podcast I listened to, and I got the Criterion channel, streaming channel, so
Sure.
started going through that. That's where I found most of the ones that I have on Best Discovery, and then a couple of other ones that I got are Fear from '97, which is a Japanese film, which I told you about, which I won't give any spoilers. I'll just say there's a scene which involves a surgeon in a bathroom, which just had my jaw on the floor. It is like one of the most shocking images I've ever seen in a movie. Um, yeah, the Japanese go hard.
Japanese films generally, yes, they go hard in the paint.
Yeah,
They don't hide behind a lot of stuff.
yeah. There's another. I'm sure I'm pronouncing this like a white boy. Young King Express from '94. And Popo. There's a bunch. Yeah,
All right.
a lot of good discoveries I found. A
Yeah.
lot of them on Criterion Channel.
So I will say to give us another shout out, Sleepaway Camp would be on my best discoveries because it's brought infinite amount of joy. It's not good, but it brings infinite amount of joy to our family now. Like legitimately past just Dylan and I. Now it's a thing within our family where like we can get 5 to 6 people talking about Sleepaway Camp time. Because even if they haven't seen it, they've heard enough of us and Hannah speak about it that it's like, yeah, like okay.
That's great.
But beyond that, in terms of actual quality films, just two that really stuck out and came to mind. The Abyss from '88, I believe, or '89. What a tremendously made film.
9, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it's nine. What a well made film. That is it's a little weird, but
89.
there is tension throughout that entire movie that I think is really well done. As much as I hate to give credit to the fart sniffing James Cameron, when it seems like he is. This is the first film that I know of that turns into like a horror story for people that work with him.
Yeah.
And I can understand why after some of the stuff that's come out. To the point where Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio is the star of this movie, along with Ed Harris. To this day, she will not talk about her experience on the Abyss. She just refuses to talk about it. Which I think that tells you a lot about the experience of the cast members and the crew. And it was an extremely difficult movie to make, especially at the time with all the underwater sequences and things like that. But the final product is absolutely beautiful and a very well made film. Some strange moments, certainly, but a very well made film nonetheless. I thought was just tremendous. Something I fell in love with immediately is Howl's Moving Castle, the Miyazaki film. I'm gonna break a lot of hearts. I watched the English dub. I don't do well with subtitles. It's not my thing. And the English voice cast is incredible. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Oh, I got an inferior film." I'm like, no, I didn't. I got a great film out of this nonetheless. But what a beautiful, beautiful, just story wise, but also just visually, absolutely stunning. And certainly something that has unlocked the. I want to go watch more of these movies because Studio Ghibli is not. I always knew how well regarded it was, but it's not something I really gravitated to. And anytime I was in the mood to
Yeah.
try to find it, I didn't have access to it. And then when I had access to it, most of the time I was like, not today. It's not for
Yeah.
today. But Howl's Moving Castle is incredible. What an incredible movie. And very unique universe. I know it's based off of a book, but ironically, the few people I know that talked about it, they're like, yeah, no, trust me, the movie's better than the book. I was like, oh, okay. Sounds good. Which I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't read the book, but I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I don't feel as bad
Yeah,
if I'm just like watching
it's
the.
a rare feat.
I mean, I don't know if it's a rare feat, honestly.
The movie being better than the book.
I think there's a lot of movies out there that are better than their books because they're more concise.
I don't know of many.
And I will have a controversial opinion about that later down the road, but
Okay,
we'll
sure.
talk about that because I don't need to I don't need to get a community that I'm very happily a part of to hate me. So,
Okay.
but The Abyss and Howl's Moving Castle are two movies that I really enjoyed discovering this year, and there was a bunch of other stuff that I came to find was enjoyable. But we'll go now to. Do you want to do an Oscar prediction or our best movie? I think Oscar prediction should be last because that's what we're kind of going
Well,
towards.
I'll just do a quick one real. I just have one quick thing. Furiosa came out this year.
Yep.
I don't think I don't think it's gonna get a single nomination for anything, which is strange considering that Mad Max Fury Road. I don't know how many nominations it got total, but I think it ended up winning. I think it was like or six, six or seven it won 6 or 7 awards,
Yeah.
all for technical awards,
Sure.
but like 6 or 7 wins. That's a lot, and I don't think Furiosa is going to get a single nomination.
Which
So
is crazy to think about because Furiosa is a very good movie. I have
yeah, I really enjoyed it actually.
I enjoyed Furiosa quite a bit, but it doesn't have the. If I were trying to point out a flaw, it does not have a kinetic energy like Fury Road. Very few movies do, so I'm not trying to say it's like a failure because very few movies I've ever seen in my life have the tangible kinetic energy that Mad Max Fury Road does. To the point where I would argue Mad Max Fury Road is perfect or damn near perfect. Whether it's your taste or not is a different story, but it's a damn near perfect movie. Furiosa is far more of a it's a strange personal story, but yet it kind of isn't. It's a weird movie. It's good. It's just kind of
Yeah,
odd, and some of the chapters to it, the way they break the movie up, it's kind of told through chapters of somebody's life. And yeah, I could see it uh, doing that. So I think it at least should get some noms, but I don't think it's. You're right. I don't know if it's going to get an award, especially as a follow up to Fury Road. My Oscar prediction. It's also I think this is more of a reflection of the category this year in general. I would predict that both best special effects and production design are going to Wicked, and I wouldn't be shocked if they got makeup either. When I in the theater watching Wicked, the thing that actually wowed me was not the music; it was the production design and the special effects, and they were pretty much
um
seamlessly put together.
do you know if they did the classic thing where they added a song just for the movie?
I don't think so. I think they
Let me look it up. Actually, I'm curious
because I
because
know
I know
there were just
most musicals
reports.
do that.
There were just reports out that they asked Ariana Grande to make like a hip hop, pop song for it, and she said no. She said, and I will talk about a woman that I've gained a lot of respect for in the past month and a half since a lot of these stories have been coming out of Wicked. Apparently, knowing her place, what's going to sell this movie to a normal person that's not a musical fan is going to be Ariana Grande. And apparently, she went to Cynthia Erivo and was like, I want us to go through our offer and I want us to be dead even on everything. And if you need something, I need it. And if I need it, you need it. I was like, wow, I give you a lot of credit for doing that because many people wouldn't. And she turned down the idea of making like a traditional bop that a lot of new movies want, especially when they have a music star in their movie. She turned that down because she just wanted to make the musical. So for that, I would say I give her a lot of credit for.
Okay. So apparently, part one does not have new songs, but apparently part two will feature two new songs.
Bold choice.
So I'm sure that I don't know if that is part of the reason, but a lot of movies that have music in them do that just for phenomenon. Happens all the time.
Yeah. So I think Wicked is. I wasn't wowed by Wicked, uh, but I will say this: the production design and specifically the special effects of Wicked, I was very impressed with. I was like, okay. So I just knowing the Academy's tendencies of the past and even the present with special effects and production design, they usually go away from big spectacles that are blockbuster films. Wicked is that, but it also goes into this Academy musical category as well.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to take it, and I truly wouldn't be
I
shocked if they win for makeup as well, simply because of the Wicked Witch.
I haven't seen Wicked yet, but I'm just gonna say I don't think it's gonna win visual effects only because Dune came out. And Dune is a juggernaut when it comes to visual. First one won.
I could see it.
Second one does not have a shortage of great visual effects.
I understand that. I just something tells me it's gonna be Wicked, and I truly
I don't
I,
considering how big it is and how big of a scope it is, I'm sure it'll get a nomination.
because the thing is this: to create Oz, you had to do a lot of special effects for that film.
Yeah.
So, which is why if 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 someone were to make the argument that they're not creating as much as Dune and all this stuff, I'm like, oh no, they are. Trust me. That some of the wide shots of Oz, some of the things, I'm like, it's got just as much spectacle as Dune in a lot of ways. Uh, Talk about a movie I just forgot I watched during this year. I'm glad you brought it up. I went through all the movies I went through 2024 in, and I forgot I watched Dune. So clearly it didn't make that much of an impression on me.
Yeah, I like the first one a lot more.
I don't, I wasn't wowed by either. And all due respect to him, because he's a very good actor, I don't buy Timothy Chalamet as this like
All a treaty.
I don't buy him as this kind of war hero messiah. And I know he's not inherently supposed to. From what I know, it's not supposed to be like classic leading man action star. But Timothy Chalamet doesn't have anything to make me believe that he could win a fight. So,
It's true.
and
Um,
if you want to be
Also,
believable to a degree, you need that.
Gladiator 2, I'm sure has just as big of a scope as Wicked.
Yeah, glad it.
I haven't seen
Well,
it either. I haven't seen it, but
having seen both, I would say, from what I'm recalling, Gladiator 2 is actually a smaller movie.
okay. Yeah,
It's
I've only seen the trailer for it.
Gladiator 2 outside of very very specific sequences is a very very personal story. And the scope is always very small for the most part because I think they understood. I'll give Ridley Scott a lot of credit because as I said in my review of this, if you want to go check it out, it's on the channel. Ridley Scott, I was ready to hate that movie so much because I just went, this is so unnecessary. What do you what are you doing Gladiator 2 for? What's the story? Where are you gonna go with this? They found it. I give him a lot of credit. I think he understood that this movie was gonna like Gladiator 2 was gonna be very dangerously treading the water of we've done this already. We don't need this. So instead of going the classic route of more spectacle, he went, no, let's keep it very personal. Let's tell this character's story versus, what every dumbfounded sequel does, which is if it's an action movie of any kind, they just go more spectacle, and you're like, that wasn't the reason we liked that movie in the first place. Uh, Not that the
Yeah.
sequences of Gladiator, the original, aren't great, but I don't think when people think of Gladiator and why they love that movie, I don't think it's because of these big, wide spectacle shots. I think it's far more the gritty, personal shots of Russell Crowe in that story. So I give them a lot of credit for understanding that. But nonetheless, my prediction would be special effects and production design goes to Wicked. I think Dune could certainly take it, but I would go Wicked on that one. But yeah, I think that'd be a good Oscar prediction. Furiosa especially, I'm like, oh yeah, could see it too. So nonetheless, best movie of 2024 is how we're gonna end this show. What movie do you have as your best?
My favorite movie of the year was Oddity. It was just a smaller horror movie that came out. I actually don't even know who made it, honestly. I watched it on Shudder. It might actually be a Shudder original movie.
Oh wow,
Look, let me look it up real
you
quick.
you are singing Shudder's praises a lot lately. Give you credit.
Yeah. Let me see if it was made by a studio or Shudder. Okay, so it was made for Shudder.
Oh wow,
So it's a Shudder original movie. They make quality stuff. They also made a movie last year which I really enjoyed, When Evil Lurks, which is I think it's a Mexican horror movie. I really enjoyed that too. They're just really good at making like these like I would guess somewhere in the range of like $10 to $15 million horror movies that just know how to use the money well.
yeah,
They don't have big names, they don't have big stars, they just get quality acting, get quality directors, and just money well.
yeah. If it works, it
And they
works.
get and they know how to get people to know their craft, and that's all that matters, really.
I mean, they're doing a good job. If they can survive solely based off of being strictly a small horror channel and just being for their niche audience, they're doing something well. Like,
Yeah.
what would be a quick synopsis of that film? Because I don't think many people are going to say, "Oh, I went and saw Oddity," or "I saw Oddity and it was my favorite of the year."
So it starts with yeah, I don't really want to spoil anything. So okay, so if you don't want any spoilers on, just skip ahead 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, so spoiler now. So there's a woman who gets murdered, and then her clairvoyant sister moves into the house because she's trying to solve the murder.
Okay.
And she has this weird, creepy ass, like living doll looking thing. It's this like weird wooden doll. And she stores little things in its head and stuff. It's really weird. Yeah, and then she's just trying to solve the murder. That's it. That's the
Okay.
basic premise of the movie. But the main thing about it is just like the amount of tension that they can create in the movie is incredible.
Hey, give
There's
them credit.
one there's one scene where it's just with one woman on one side of the door, a locked door, and then another person on the other side of the door, and it plays out for like 3 minutes maybe. And it is one of the most tension-filled scenes I've ever seen. It's I actually honestly I didn't think about it in my top 10 or top 100. I probably would have put it in there, and now I have to find room for it. I totally forgot about it.
Huh. I mean, credit to the film then. That's tremendous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the scene I'm talking about with the locked door. I actually heard about it on a channel called Dead Meat that usually just does like kill counts and stuff about horror movies.
Sure.
They just go through all the kills in horror movies, but they do year-end reviews like pretty much like the Oscars, but for horror movies, where
Sure.
they give like best performance, best kill, best effects by a horror movie, stuff like that.
Sure.
And that's where I first heard about it. So I was like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. And yeah, when they showed little clips of that scene, hmm, I gotta check that out. And I watched that the next day, and I was like, "Holy shit, great!"
I mean, it must be quite impressive if it's a top 100 for you. So, top 100 for me is a lot more familiar than yours would be, certainly
Oh yeah,
to
100%, hundred
many
percent.
moviegoers. But the more you think about favorites when you just stack up movies, it's crazy. Because if you look back in your life, people that say I don't really watch movies still have watched hundreds of movies. They just probably haven't thought about it in that context.
Yes.
And so to think about that, especially for someone who is, I mean, goddamn, audience, look at the fucking shelf behind him.
Yeah.
I think the kid likes movies. So to say it's a top 100
Yeah.
film for you is quite respectable, actually.
Yeah. Maybe I don't know if it would break into the top 100. It might not, but definitely be like close to it.
Yeah, impressive.
And just a couple other movies that I really enjoyed: Challengers with Zendaya. I really enjoyed that movie. Monkey Man, which I mentioned earlier. Civil War, which I mentioned earlier. Dune, enjoyed. Wasn't great or anything. Furiosa, I enjoyed. What else did I? Twisters was fun, but
Yeah,
it wasn't great or anything.
I enjoy Twisters though.
Fun. Um,
Twisters is the only movie that made me think perhaps the movie star formula isn't completely dead.
I mean, Glenn Powell is the closest thing we're ever gonna get to another huge.
Glenn Powell is starting to make me believe that movie stars can be a thing because
Yeah, I've been.
he's being really
Uh,
smart about his choices.
oh, actually, you know what? I wanted to mention too. Anyone But You came out 2024.
Yeah,
I wanted to say, did I love the movie? No, enjoyed it, and I really hope that studios take the right lessons from that movie and say, "Hey, these movies can still be profitable if we take the right lessons from that. If we take two bankable stars, make a good script, give the people what they want, which is pretty much a formula
sure.
that works, and give them two stars that have real chemistry and put it in the theater."
Well,
Like,
especially that is I think the one positive that came out of Madam Web was the stories that Sydney Sweeney took Madam Web so she could get Anyone But You made.
yeah,
And I give her a lot of credit for that. Where to be in that spot as a young actress and be like, no, 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 I'm going to play the game. I know what I'm doing.
yeah, yeah. She's a producer on Anyone But You, so
I give her
I'll give her that.
I
I
give her a
don't
hell of a
love
lot of
her
credit.
as an actress, but
But she's of
she's
the
smart.
time. She's of the time. She's clearly captured the imagination of this era. Granted, it's it's Euphoria and into who she is now, and yeah, is there a healthy dose of the bro community that's just like she's really hot? Like, sure,
Yeah,
but at the same time, she's using that to her advantage to figure out how to
I
make
really
things that
like.
she wants to do.
Yeah, I really like romantic. So like, I want to see them do well again. Like, I don't love that they just get painted into the like made for streaming crap.
Yeah. Well, and
'Cause they
then
always just get like these budgets of like I don't know, probably 2 million
yeah,
with no name people.
yeah. No, they because they're cheap and they make those streaming services work. I mean, perfect example. Multiple times over the past week and a half, I've had to hear about the Netflix series with Adam Brody and Kristen Bell. Nothing about that intrigues me. I've seen the trailer, I've seen clips. Not my cup of tea. Not something that I'm like, yeah, I gotta go watch that. But it's a perfect example of why projects that could be classic 2 hour or, you know, 105 to 110-minute romantic comedies get thrown onto streaming services and they don't get released. It's just like, oh, well, we could do it for much cheaper here.
Yeah.
and serve the master of the audience. Where anyone but you, yeah, I think it deserves some credit for being like, no, let's release this in
Yeah.
theaters. Let's try to make some money off this.
Also, I hate streaming exclusive stuff. It just annoys the absolute shit out of me. Like, I hate that I can't just buy it somewhere. I hate when I have to subscribe to a place to watch something. It just drives me
Well,
crazy.
especially half the subscriptions you can't cancel after a month half the time. So yeah, it's fucking obnoxious. Where you're like, I just want to watch the fucking
Especially
movie.
like Netflix is the absolute worst about it because they don't release anything on physical media ever. It's just like, go
Yeah,
fuck yourself, Netflix.
yeah.
Honestly.
Wasn't it Stranger Things is like the only thing they ever put
Well, they
physical
have like
media?
a couple things where like they'll put some of their stuff on Criterion Collection, like Irishman stuff, but like that's few and far between.
And that was simply because of who made it. And they're like, no, 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 no. We're not doing just
Yeah,
this.
there's like maybe like a handful, like five. So it's like yeah, that shit just drives me crazy. I hate where I just can't buy something and just have it forever. Or I have to eternally subscribe if I feel like watching it. It's bullshit.
Oh yeah, no, I've certainly been looking at my streaming services right now and kind of going, well, I can watch it anytime for free. I'm like, no, 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 it's not free.
Exactly.
You know, if I look and I'm like, no, I can watch Star Wars anytime I want because I have Disney Plus. It's like, yes, paying to eternally have the option to watch Star Wars anytime you want,
Yeah.
or the Marvel movies, or indie or anything like that. So yeah, like I get it. It's fucking obnoxious. But those are good movies to shout out, especially Anyone But You. That just they did a really good job of social media making that work. Also, talk about another really smart move on her part because it's worth mentioning that she fueled all those rumors with Glenn Powell, where she was like, "No, no, like maybe," and everyone's like, "I think they're actually dating. I think they're really together," and it made people go see that movie. I give her all the credit in the fucking world. Good for her. She was smart
Hey,
enough to
that's smart marketing.
smart marketing. She knew what she was doing and she did it properly. And if that works and that got a movie that deserved to get some credit more than it maybe even deserved as a film on its own, but filled a niche that hasn't been seen in theaters for a long time, good for fucking her. Good on her for doing it.
Yeah.
Uh best movie of 2024. So, I separated best and favorite, but I will shout out my favorite as well. Shout out to my favorite movie is actually Lisa Frankenstein. I that movie's tailor made for me, and I know it is, and I love it. But I do think it fits into the cult classic mode. And when we eventually do talk top 100 movies on this channel and on this podcast, you may see a lot of cult classic like films in my top 100. Lisa Frankenstein fits that to a T perfectly, and I fell in love with Lisa Frankenstein. I think it's just so much fun, so quick. Other movies I really enjoyed, Beetlejuice, I enjoyed, but it's a throwback to an old era where it's just, what if we just made movies that people like? Okay, and it's a sequel that didn't take itself too seriously, which I appreciated, and they tried to do something new with it, but they also, I think they balanced the new and the old well. You got to see a lot more of the world of Beetlejuice there and the world of the dead and different aspects of it, but you still got your familiar stuff that you really liked while telling at least a new story, which I really, really appreciated. So that was fun for me to experience. Also, anytime I can go back into a classic Tim Burton world, I'm fucking there because it's insane to me how much his aesthetic and his sensibility has influenced my entire film watching life. So it's it's abundantly clear how much Tim Burton means to me as a movie watcher. I enjoyed Twisters quite a bit actually. I was pleasantly surprised by Gladiator 2, Furiosa. Fun movie, although I don't think it's very good, but I at least had some fun because I enjoy the world. I did enjoy Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I might want to be one of the few who did. I know it's not that good, so I don't want to say it's a good movie, But it was kind of fun to just get to play in that world, and they, at this point, they kind of feel self-aware, where they're just like, hey, people like to watch the Ghostbusters. Let's just make some Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah, that's one franchise I wish they would just let go of. Just let it die for a decade or so, and give it a food if you want.
I
But
think,
Sony
sadly,
won't do.
no, they won't. But on top of that, I think the shame of it is I actually really enjoy Ghostbusters Afterlife, and I think Frozen Empire, while not as good, is still fun. And had they not had they've had, even going back, had they not had Ghostbusters 2 in the 2016 Ghostbusters, if they just had that, I think a lot of people would be like, okay, it's kind of fun to play in this world again.
Yeah, sure.
But they don't, you've got those two movies sandwiched between Afterlife and the original that you're kind of like, oh, okay. So you're like, okay, cool. But I think it's fun for a fan. If you're not a Ghostbusters fan, don't watch it. Because you're not going to have that much fun with it. But if you like Ghostbusters, just I think it can be a fun 2 hours. But my best movie of the year is actually Fall Guy. I fucking loved Fall Guy, and I think it's incredibly well made. If you have Peacock, go watch it immediately. It is incredibly fun. Because I just like many other people, I fell victim to the marketing, and I didn't think the marketing did it a lot of favors. But now I understand what the marketing was going for because I think the marketing actually captures the essence of the movie pretty well. I just don't think they did a great job getting people excited about it.
Mm.
It's actually quite an engaging story. Ryan Gosling once again showing that he's great. Emily Blunt once again showing she is great. Hannah Waddingham is tremendous in that movie. I love her. So it's just it's a lot of fun. And it is kind of a throwback to some old action movies. And it's self-aware. It's not trying. It does break some new ground, which is kind of fun. By doing some of the things that they're doing, it's almost sort of meta in a way because of how self-aware it is. But it's just an enjoyable film. A lot of fun action set pieces, enjoyable characters, an engaging storyline that does at least kind of keep you guessing a little bit for a hair. If you're a seasoned movie watcher, you're like, I saw that one coming. But same time, it's still a very fun and enjoyable experience. So, I'd say Fall Guys my best movie of 2024. Can't believe you haven't seen that. You're a Ryan Gosling guy. You like Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, no. And I really actually, I almost went to the theater to watch that one, which is
Mhm.
saying something because I hate the theater.
You don't go to the theater anymore. Simply because a bunch of teenagers ruined Jaws.
Yeah, all suck.
I
I
do
hate
I
that.
do want to get you back into the theater life because you lived there. You lived at the theater for a while.
I know. People ruin it.
I think you just got to go like 4 weeks after the movie comes out. Just sit in a room by
Well,
yourself.
that's what I thought I had, and then people come in and talk, and they're on their phone, and then I don't know.
I also think
It's,
you went to like a 45th anniversary screening of a movie. So it's not like people are
yeah.
engaged. You don't really get
Why?
that.
Why even come to that if you're not going to watch it then?
I agree with you. You're correct. But while you're at a new movie, I of all the movies I've seen in the theater, I think once I've actually seen someone obnoxiously on a phone where I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And it was one of the I think it was the whatever the second of the ridiculous titles of the revamped Planet of the Apes movies. I think it was the second one in that one.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, whatever it was. Good movie. But
Yep.
there was one obnoxious person on their phone where I'm like, what are you doing? We're all here on a Friday night premiere. Shut the fuck up. Turn your phone off and watch the fucking movie. Other than that, in all my time in the theater, I really haven't come across anyone like that. So I think it might simply have been the screening of an old movie and kids suck. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, it was younger people.
but nonetheless. That has been our review of
Oh, one
2024.
real quick. My worst scene 2024 is not from a 2024 movie. From a movie from 1950 called King Solomon's Mines. Never watch it. Anyone listening, don't watch this movie. I almost turned it. It's a Best Picture nominee, which is why I watched. Within, I think it's like one of the first scenes in the movie. They show a hunter killing an actual elephant on screen. I almost turned it off immediately. The only reason I stuck through it is because that's my goal, is to watch every single nominee. It was
Jesus
one of the
Christ.
most upsetting things I've ever seen. There's also a documentary called Trophy, which they play along uh, a trophy hunter shooting an elephant, and they play it out real time. Where it's a canned hunt where they drive the guy out there, elephant, point blank range, and it just you watch in real time as it dies. It's the most disgusting thing you'll ever see. Yeah, it's the most upsetting thing. Hated it. Yeah, that's on my rating. I gave it 0 stars out of 5.
You go negative stars.
Um,
You can go negative stars. That's fine.
yeah, I was like, yeah, it like stuff like that, and it's supposed to be like spectacle back in the day, but that stuff just
First of all, not good judgment for 1950s. Certainly wouldn't be good judgment now. But let's just say this flat out. If you're still a trophy hunter, 2024, soon to be 2025, go fuck yourself.
yeah.
Truly,
Well,
just go fuck yourself.
There's still the big 5 big game hunters.
Yeah, and
Three,
and everyone who does is a bunch of fucking morons.
yeah, they're all rich assholes.
Generally white, too.
Especially because there's absolutely no skill involved. They're all canned hunters, or they get literally driven out there by someone. They get the shot set up for them, and then they pull a trigger.
Yeah, you're a fucking
It's the
douchebag.
most ridiculous thing.
You're a fucking douchebag if you do that shit. Go fuck yourself.
It's disgusting.
But
Yeah, so that's
alas.
just word of warning. Not that anyone was gonna watch it.
Now, since that was such a downer, I am going to bring up another movie that I think was fun. Was War of the Rohirrim, the new Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh yeah,
It's not great. I want to say that right away. And that's something that pains me because I adore Lord of the Rings, as you know very well. But it's fun. And it's an enjoyable film. The back half of it is very, very fun, and there's some moments where you're like, yeah. The first half of the movie, you're like, okay, this is fun, this is cool, we get to play in the world. Okay. But it's a fun movie nonetheless. I think it could certainly have. It's going to be one of those movies that either disappears and no one speaks of it ever again, or it's going to kind of have a small life on a streaming service like Amazon.
oh, I am seeing Nosferatu on Christmas. Looking forward to that.
Thank you for saying that because
That looks good.
that is the only movie that I regret not being able to watch prior to the recording of this episode.
Yes,
So
that looks like it's right up my alley.
I would really like to
Really
watch
looking forward to
Nosferatu.
it.
So, but other than that, that has been our 2024 review. Praise for some movies, and always shit towards Madam Web because the movie fucking sucks. And there's other movies out there that have entered the bracket, but that has been our review of 2024. If you want a sneak peek into 2025, go watch our next episode, which is going to be coming out the first Saturday of the new year, in which we are previewing a bunch of the movies coming out in 2025. Plus, we have some really cool projects coming your way, such as our top 100 films. We might be having a movie tournament. We might be having some other special events as well, but I'm not going to confirm or deny those yet. But it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, and go enjoy yourself. So go watch a great movie. Happy holidays to everyone, and thank you for watching this and being with us in 2024. We've enjoyed the engagement, and we've enjoyed this from all of you. Peace, love, those to all.